Peter Thiel is, alongside Elon Musk, the most influential figure on the new tech right. Like Musk, Thiel was a co-founder of PayPal. He was also the first external investor in Facebook, which made him a billion, I think. And he is the chairman and founder of Palantir. That's the software company specializing in surveillance, which provides services for both the US military and the NHS. Thiel is worth $20 billion, making him the world's 103rd richest individual. As an early backer of Trump, he has a lot of power and influence, which is worrying, seeing as he doesn't seem to know whether he wants any of us to exist.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
We got there in the end, I suppose. Yes was the final answer after 20 seconds of being very unsure. If you're wondering how that question even came up, the broader conversation was about the prevalence of transhumanism in Silicon Valley. Now, transhumanism is the belief that we can augment ourselves with technology, creating a richer form of experience and ability. And at its extreme, it includes the idea that we could upload our minds into data centers and achieve immortality. This is Peter Thiel again.
I also would I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so, it's always, I don't know, transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or a transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross-dresses. And a transsexual is someone where you change your, penis into a vagina. And we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul.
This isn't a Glastonbury story again. This isn't someone who's taken too many mushrooms. They're hanging out at the back of one of the late night tents, sort of just riffing. This is the 103rd richest person in the world, who's probably one of the most significant people in Silicon Valley and one of the most significant people on the American right. Now, perhaps the one thing you can say in defense of transhumanism is that it's better than posthumanism. Now, posthumanism, which also seems surprisingly influential, isn't about augmentation, but replacement. Now, Richard Sutton was the winner of the 2024 Turing Award, which is considered as being equivalent to the Nobel Prize for computer science. Really significant guy. He won that award for his role in the development of modern computational reinforcement learning, which is how they train models like ChatGPT. And his views on humanity's future were summarized well in a tweet in 2023. So he says, "The argument for fear of AI appears to be 1. AI scientists are trying to make entities that are smarter than current people. 2. If these entities are smarter than people, then they may become powerful. 3. That would be really bad, something greatly to be feared, an existential risk." And then he says, the first 2 steps are clearly true. So AI scientists are trying to make entities that are smarter than current people, and they will become very powerful. But he says the last one is not. Why shouldn't those who are the smartest become powerful? Again, this is not just some random guy on Twitter. This is one of the most influential computer scientists in the world who developed the reinforcement learning technology that makes LLMs so powerful, large language models so powerful. Helena, there's an awful lot you could pick up on here. I suppose I'll begin with, have you come across the transhumanists?
I mean, it's been a pretty kind of popular part of, especially in like science fiction literature for a very long time. And of course, since we've seen kind of the advent of the tech bro as a kind of force in the international and kind of scientific discourse, there have been these people who are, what about what things can we do to make the best versions of ourselves, right? And I have some sympathy with this idea, right? I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong with the idea of using the power of technology to augment human existence. I think that there are plenty of guardrails that we should put down there, but fundamentally the idea that we can use technology to make life better for everybody, sure, it depends on what you're proposing in these instances. And talking about uploading people's digital minds so that they can live forever, that's a really interesting subject of a great video game for people, gamers in chat. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, play the horror game Soma. Really, really interesting philosophical discussions there about what immortality even means within that context, right? But the issue I have is that when it comes from tech bros, when it comes from people like Peter Thiel, none of my kind of tacit, I guess, acceptance that there are some benefits to the use of technology to make people's lives better. None of that exists when you're looking at these kind of psychopathic people, in my mind, like Peter Thiel. That's my opinion of him, right? In the, do I think these people have the best for humanity in their mind? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not in the slightest, right? And there's a problem. This is myopic thinking that I've seen in the kind of tech bro world, in this kind of billionaire world, this kind of Curtis Yarvin sphere of the population that people like Peter Thiel live in, which is fundamentally, there is a thing that being rich does to your brain, where it wires you to believe that somehow you must be correct about everything because you've succeeded in the world of capitalism, right? So the guardrails that would be necessary to try and pin people like this back don't exist, because they fundamentally believe that what they support is good, it is the future, and they have the power to be able to put that into practice, right? So I don't have any kind of confidence that anything that Peter Thiel would want for humanity would be in the best interest of anyone other than himself. And that's a big problem. You see this with crypto people all the time, right? There's no dispassionate discussion over the benefits or the lack of benefits towards the adoption of the new cryptocurrency world that they want to see. Any amount of opposition to the adoption of such a thing is described as fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Those are the words that they would use, because they fundamentally believe that what they have is the future. And therefore, anyone who disagrees isn't somebody with reasoned critiques or worries about the negative externalities of such a system. They are just people who haven't got with the program yet. And if you're fundamentally looking at things like transhumanism, if you're fundamentally looking at things with regards to how we can make society better through technology, right? Because you were the person who's going to benefit, you're financially going to benefit from this stuff, then the issue that you come to is, if you've personally believed that you can do no wrong, then you're not going to be the person who's going to be able to actually protect people from those negative externalities. That's where my issues come in, especially when you look at people who are fully engaged in AI. Any amount of criticism of them, that affects their bottom line. So they're going to be less receptive to that criticism than somebody who's looking at this from a neutral perspective.
I think Peter Thiel and a lot of these guys, and when I sort of read about transhumanism or listen to them speak, there's an almost kind of fascist adjacent elitism where sort of the 8 billion people who inhabit this world don't really matter. The only people that matter are the people who they have sort of assigned the labels of being smart and ambitious in Silicon Valley. And if they accidentally end the world, it's not the end of the world. If it was for a chance to make, them and their 20 closest, friends immortal, it would have been worth the risk. That's what I get from them when I'm listening to it. It's like, well, we might as well take the risk because the upsides are huge and the downsides is, everyone dies, but I don't really like them anyway. That's also what I got from his hesitation. I want to go back to that Thiel interview. It's the last clip I'm going to show you of it. I listened to the whole thing. It was interesting. I thought it was bonkers, to be honest, but worrying because of the influence this guy has. The context to the next clip is that you'll like this. Peter Thiel has the curious belief that Greta Thunberg is the Antichrist. I'm not making this up. His argument is that she wants us all to fear climate change so much that we welcome in a totalitarian world government, which would enforce stagnation on the entire world with climate change as the sort of big boogeyman that enables her to do it. I don't think she would lead the government, but she represents the Antichrist anyway to this guy. The host, Ross Douthat, had a curious suggestion about who might really be the one enabling such an authoritarian future.
You're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
To be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe. But is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism?
Two questions which shouldn't be that difficult to answer in an interview. Do you want humanity to continue to exist? And are you the Antichrist? And Peter Thiel really, really struggles with both, which I think tells you a lot. As I say, I'm increasingly worried about these guys because they have so much influence and power, especially over the technology of the future. Palantir, of course, they're the military company that is really trying to bring the advances of AI into that sphere. So, I don't have details about them. I know they sort of work with the Israelis, for example, when it comes to surveillance of Palestinians. I imagine they're also the kind of company that's looking at swarms of AI-enabled drones and all the things that could definitely kill us all. But he doesn't seem to mind, right? Because he wasn't sure if he wanted us to exist anyway. So, maybe I'm the Antichrist, maybe I'm not, maybe we all die, maybe we don't. Oh, isn't it kind of interesting anyway? That's what I get from him. I don't trust him. I don't think he expected me to trust him, but I'm worried about him, let's say.